we're one of the 5 partner councils within the project, and just to give you a bit of overview of kind of the Luton residents population, we have about 210,000, population of 210,000, about 78,000 residents, 78,000 households, 20% of which are flats, 30% of the population is transient. We do about 8 million pickups a year, so it's quite a few. In the original session, in the discoveries, we found that kind of missed bins kept coming up a lot. Then we had another session to work out what to prioritise, and again, missed bins come to the top. So we looked at taxonomies and kind of the report it function, and today I'm going to kind of focus on the report it function. So there's kind of 2 sides to this. A lot of councils might say, well, we don't have a missed bin problem, so it's not an issue. Whereas the customer might say, it doesn't matter what it is, why you've not picked it up, it could be contaminated, you've missed my bin. But for both sides, it's a bit of a pain point because it's quite expensive to deal with. So our current process is quite long. So the customer realises that their bin's not being picked up. They'll have to either if they're a regular, they'll note the number, probably on speed dial, or they might actually go to the website, use a switchboard to find out the number. They say they ring the number and they call before 4 PM. They get told, sorry, you're going to have to ring back again at, after 4. So when they do call after 4, they'll get some more information of what's happened. So if there's no info there, that probably is a genuine missed bin. If there's information like contamination or it wasn't on the property, they'll get told, you've got to remove the unwanted items from the bin, or here's your tidy tip. And if it's a genuine missed bin, there'll be kind of a ticket raised to go and deal with it. If it's not genuine, they get the options explained and say they get told, it'll be collected in the next round. So you can see there we have about last year, in 2014 we had just over 5,000 calls around missed bins, so just kind of a rough idea. A quarter of those were repeat calls, so we're actually having to deal with customers twice, which isn't good for the council or good for their residents as well. The cost of them calls equated to just about £10,500. This is kind of a figure that we'd hope to with the API, work with the API to try and kind of reduce these calls, if we could reduce the calls to the councils. So Paul kind of gave a bit of a demo earlier, but potentially what could happen is, because we've got currently installing kind of the bar tick system into our cabs, that could be the API can link up and give us real-time data. So the customer could go online, they could use their house number or postcode to find out their collection status, and then so if it's kind of really has been missed, they'll get told, here's report it, and they might be able to raise a ticket if it connects to another API within our kind of ticket system, which is APP. If it's something sort of like because the property wasn't on the property, or if it's contaminated, they won't get the message to report it. They'll be told, here's your options, here's what you've got to do. Say remove the unwanted item, or take it to the tidy tip. But really, the calls are just the symptoms of the problem. They're not fixing the calls. So we're looking at how potentially we could stop missed bins as a whole with the API. Mm-hmm. So you can see there's on average, I think it's about £25 per pickup. So that and the calls together equates to about £94,000 in 2014, which is a much higher number to try and target. So potentially the API could help us with having a more dynamic collection lookup. So it could kind of adapt to if there's winter conditions or a bank holiday. It could give people more information and help. At the moment ours is quite static, it just works off kind of a CSV file and populates information. So if it was bad conditions, we'd have to just put a message up on the website. It could potentially connect with other APIs like the Gov UK one, with automating notifications to repeat offenders. So if someone's consistently forgetting to put the bin out or putting the wrong stuff in their bin, they could get a notification. We could also modify kind of council procedure and policy with all the data it could collect. And kind of the bin education links in with the kind of collection data, so we could give people more information about what's going wrong. So if there's a certain area is constantly putting things in the wrong bin, we could kind of put in a notification to tell them to do what to do otherwise. Thanks for your time. Any questions?
Can you just tell us how critical the in-cab technology is in this process?
Very critical.
Absolutely.
Succinct answer.
So, taking that word critical, how do you make your crew? Are you in-house or are you contracted?
That's the shift is over.
We're an in-house DSO.
Okay. How do your crews take to being trained on in-cab and using it?
Currently, fingers crossed, well, it's virtually like a TomTom. They've all got decent cars, and so they've all got that technology and decent
They
phones.
understand that it benefits them in the long run.
Yeah.
Although it's another chore.
It's not a chore for them really, because a lot of them see it's
using
quick. It's
it.
easier than carrying a bit of paper and getting another pen. It's all on there. Every round's on them.
So they've been there happy. You've got a CSC feel about customer services. They're pretty busy between 4 o'clock and 5:30. I come home from work at 5:35.
Realistically, with any in-cab, a lot of the misbins will disappear. Just quite a lot of them are repeat people, or you know, they've got homes, the bins still live, or the bins still working. To be honest.
How far have you got with this?
It's all part of the process. It's all potential, isn't it? Not go too far. This is just kind of ideas that how we could use it.
Okay. So you've done the in-cab,
Yeah, so the in-cabs that we're putting at the moment.
but you're still making people wait till 4 o'clock.
The in-cabs in the pilot stage, we clean up all the data and training the crews. So that process, we want to get that right before we change all the call centre processes.
And from our point of view, so the exciting thing about working potentially with Luton as an implementation partner is that as part of this switchover process, they could pilot this particular standard. So not just one there's many standards that could work for each individual local authority, but it'd be quite exciting if they managed to integrate one that could work across the board more easily. And if they managed to do so with Bartek are already involved with a huge chunk of local authorities, so they'll be in a much better position to switch over with their other clients too, in an ideal world.
Yeah, the timing for us is hopefully pretty perfect.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do is coming along at the same time as the last thing.
Maybe the stars are aligning. Did somebody else have another question?
Yeah, just to follow up, how much information do the crews give back to customer services about the reason a bin wasn't collected? And going forward, in terms of what you're looking to introduce, how are you going to deal with situations where residents argue the toss or don't accept the information from the operatives? Do you have a sort of process map for that?
All in-cab systems are based on drop-down menus, so you're not going to complicate it for crews, because they've still only got the 10 or 15
Yes, you're not getting into taking pictures or anything like that. They just say,
No.
yes.
There's an Android application for supervisors to go out, but the argument, you know, if your bin wasn't there at 10 o'clock, it's not there. Simple as that. So.
Okay, thank you.
And just so I understand correctly, how does the person being able to look up the reason for it wasn't contaminated or the open lid or whatever?
Yeah.
How does that stop a call? Is it that if it's contaminated, you can't report it missed, therefore don't bother phoning us?
Yes.
So is that there?
Yeah, so basically they're not going to get, so there could be an option to report it kind of built in, but that's not going to get displayed to people who have a contaminated bin. They're going to get given a different message to that particular to that situation. But that's the idea. We're not.
Yeah.
This is all kind of
Really,
good
it's an
ideas.
online triage to give them the right information at the right time. So if it is genuine, then
So it drops them out before they get to report it.
just to jump in on that, we do find that there's a what if for pretty much every situation. So the crew might quite rightly report that the bin's contaminated. So the guy goes to report it online and it says your bin's contaminated, and that's kind of end of the road. There are these, 1 in a million, well, it's not 1 in a million, but there are these very rare occurrences where maybe he's a new householder and he's inherited a contaminated bin. So at that point, there is still usually the option to say, escalate this, and that then becomes obviously a free text or a much more free-form thing, but you filter out the vast majority of those at that. By demonstrating that the truck was there at 10:32 and the crew said the bin was contaminated, and it was contaminated anyway, it's that strength of evidence that actually turns a lot of people away from making a spurious claim, or actually reporting that they put the bin on the wrong day. You know, they go online and it says, oh, it's your recycling day. No. So it turns away a lot, but I think you've still got to allow that funnel through of the odd cases.
Thank you.